Welcome to this exciting chapter on e-business, which has 4 parts. Part A is Introduction and Business Models. Part B is Online Payment, B2B Technologies and Supply Chain Management. Part C will cover online advertising, and Part D concludes the chapter and reviews web analytics. Here you can see the overview of the chapter. We're going to kick off with an introduction. This will be followed by a discussion of the economic impact of digitalization, and then we will review various types of business models for doing e-business. Nowadays, we are being flooded by various types of digital technologies. A very actual technology is artificial intelligence, or AI. I actually do research on artificial intelligence for credit scoring, churn prediction, fraud detection, customer analytics, but I also study large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and so on. Another exciting digital technology is cloud computing. The idea of cloud computing is to gain access to resources which are situated in the cloud. And the cloud is a connected set of computer systems that jointly collaborate and give us very advanced facilities, typically by means of web services, to store data or to process data. Another exciting digital innovation is the Internet of Things. The idea of the Internet of Things is to equip products or resources with IoT sensors that continuously monitor certain types of parameters. That could be location, that could be weather, etc. Recently, we did a project in smart agriculture where we planted IoT sensors in pear and orange orchards that continuously monitor soil moisture and humidity, which allows us, together with weather forecasts, to do very smart irrigation. So based upon the soil moisture and weather forecast, whether it's going to rain or not, we can decide whether we're going to irrigate, yes or no. So this allows us to use water, a scarce resource, in a very eco-friendly way, thanks to this new digital technology of Internet of Things. Then we have blockchain. The idea of blockchain is to group transactions between partners that collaborate in a network, to group these transactions into blocks. Once we have accumulated a sufficient amount of transactions in a block, the block needs to be approved by any of the partners in the network. And once that block is approved, a new block is created, connected to the previous block, as such creating a public ledger, which is publicly accessible and visible to anyone participating in the network. We will extensively refer to blockchain when we talk about cryptocurrencies later in the chapter. Think about virtual or augmented reality, which allows us to have immersive experiences in a particular type of environment, using a particular type of product, as such facilitating what the product can do for us or how the environment interacts with us. Think about drones, which provide another way of delivering products to our doorstep. Later on, we're going to see an example of how Amazon is using drones as part of its logistics chain. Wearable technology. Nowadays, many of us are having smartwatches, Fitbits that continuously monitor our blood pressure, or sleep quality, or heartbeat, etc., which is very useful information to improve your health, for example. Think about 3D printing. So all of these newer types of digital technologies allow us to actually start new types of digital business designs. New types of business designs or business models could be, for example, by blurring the digital and the physical worlds. Many of the devices nowadays that we're using are almost constantly connected to our anatomy. Think about a smartwatch that we're constantly wearing. Think about our smartphone that is constantly in our hands because we're almost constantly, it's not a good thing, but many of us are constantly checking their Instagram, checking the news, checking what they should do for their courses and so on. So the phone has become almost part of our anatomy. Right? There's a word for that. Oftentimes, the word that is used to denote the fact that a hardware device has become part of your anatomy is cyborg. So all of us humans are modern day cyborgs, if you want. But not only this, think about also the IoT example of smart agriculture that I mentioned earlier, where we have physical products that become smart and connected, such that can be constantly monitored, such that we can decide where a physical product is located, whether it should be maintained, whether it should be upgraded, etc. But also think about digital platforms as they are being provided by companies such as Amazon, Apple, or Alibaba in Asia, that are in essence orchestrating ecosystems of partners, data, and customers, all aimed to collaborate and co-create value. The idea is to co-create value amongst the different partners that are operating in this ecosystem. Think about new business designs as provided by Uber and Airbnb, very popular examples of the sharing economy, subscription models like Netflix, Spotify. Think about models like Amazon Go or Google Nest. Google Nest is essentially a line of, let me translate this into English. Here we go. It's a line of smart home products developed by Google, including devices like thermostats, security cameras, doorbells, and smart speakers. And these devices are designed to help automate, monitor, and control home functions using the Google Assistant and the Google Home app. So these new digital technologies not only just enable doing things faster and cheaper, but essentially change the way we conduct business, as such also offering us new types of business models, new types of business designs. Basically, the process of digitalization originated in the late 90s of the previous century when companies started to use the web to sell online. So they made their first attempts, the first websites were being developed, and they got their toes wet and see how it worked and what it can do for them, what it could mean. This continued further down in the years 2000, where the web continued to transform the way we do business. We saw the emergence of social media, and users went more and more from being content consumers to content creators. So rather than just reading content online, users can now also post content online. They can like a social media post, they can share a social media post, they can create their own social media post, and they can post a product review. This is all very actionable information, which can be analyzed using artificial intelligence techniques to better understand customer behavior, customer needs, customer preferences, or maybe even customer complaints. And obviously, this is very actionable information for online advertising. Online advertising, which became the lifeblood of an elaborate ecosystem of advertisers, publishers, platforms, and users. And these advertisers, publishers, and platform and users could be a website, could be a social media platform, could be anything, could be a marketplace, as we will refer to later on, etc. We also saw the emergence of digital products, products that could be entirely delivered digitally. Think about music, think about books, think about newspapers, boarding passes, games, and so on. These are digital products for which no physical delivery is needed. They can be entirely delivered in a digital way. This technological development, in essence, continued in the years 2010, where we saw digital channels that further extended to mobile and everyday devices. Think about smartwatches, think about IoT sensors, and so on. With all of that came a massive digital footprint. The digital footprint is the data footprint that customers like you and I leave behind on a digital platform like the internet. So we leave behind a massive amount of data about our browsing behavior, about the products that we're interested in, about the products that we actually purchased, about the products that we praise, or about the products that we are dissatisfied with, which allows us to analyze all this data using artificial intelligence, better understand customer needs, and maybe even create new opportunities. Think about Uber and Airbnb, which during the years 2010 shook up the entire taxi and hotel industry business sectors. Big shockwaves there, often also led to legal cases, to court cases. Think about social media platforms that essentially transform how people communicate, influence, and shop. So, because if we're on Instagram and our friends have a kind of positive experience with a product or service and they post it on Instagram, it will influence us as well. Usually, people like what their friends like. So, thanks to social media platforms, it's very easy now to say, I've seen this movie and I liked it. I purchased this pair of Nike shoes and look at me with those Nike shoes and they're fitting really well and they're looking amazing. All of this creates some very interesting marketing opportunities because it changes the way people communicate, influence, and shop. Then also cloud computing became the backbone of scalable, flexible digital services. So using cloud computing, we now have access to very powerful data storage platforms, but also very powerful data processing facilities, often provided through platforms such as Amazon Web Services, AWS, and Azure. Let's first define e-commerce and e-business. The difference between e-commerce and e-business is very easy. E-commerce is the process of buying and selling goods and services electronically. So using any electronic means doesn't have to be the internet. And there's obviously two sides. There's buying from suppliers and there's selling to customers. E-business is then e-commerce, but using internet technologies. Internet technologies such as HTTP, which is the transport protocol that internet uses to transport web pages, HTML, JavaScript, and so on, and all kinds of other digital technologies for performing business processes and coordinating between suppliers and partners. So e-business is e-commerce and the use of the internet. There's various types of e-commerce and e-business that you can define. Business to consumer are businesses that directly sell online their products to end consumers. This is what Zalando is doing. This is what Amazon is doing. This is what Alibaba is doing. Business to business is businesses directly selling to other businesses online. This is what Gillette is doing for the razor and all kinds of products, hygiene products. This is what Unilever is doing when they're selling their products to supermarkets like Walmart, Carrefour. Consumer to consumer are consumers that are directly selling to other consumers. Popular example thereof is eBay. Government to citizen are governments that directly interact with citizens using the internet. For example, for online tax filing, digital licenses, etc. What are the key features of e-commerce? Well, it's quite obvious. It's ubiquity. It's available everywhere at all times. If you set up your website now and you're engaged into e-business activities, your website is available 24/7. Everybody can log on to your website whenever they want. And you have an unlimited reach because your reach is worldwide, it's international. So the total number of users reachable is enormous, it's almost unlimited, infinite. And that's thanks to universal standards that allow you to connect to a worldwide network of people. Standards like 3G, 4G, 5G, HTTP, which is the standard that the internet uses to transport web pages, HTML5, JavaScript, etc. So if you want to engage into e-commerce, you just have to set up that website. You have ubiquity, unlimited reach, so you have very low entry and search costs. Richness. Actually, it was Jeff Bezos that said, if I have 1 million customers, I want to have 1 million online shops. What he basically meant that if someone logs on to Amazon, they should have a personalized Amazon web page. So if you log on to Amazon, the web page that you will see is entirely different than the web page that I will see because our purchase history is different, our interests are different, our browsing history on the Amazon website is different, and so on. So it allows for a lot of richness in terms of complexity and content of the message. It also allows to modern day websites also allow to include augmented reality experiences, virtual reality experiences, and so on. So that creates a very rich way of delivering information to your end consumer. There's also interactivity, which is a two-way communication between the merchant and consumer. I log on to Amazon, I browse various pages on the Amazon website, as such telling Amazon what I'm interested in. All of the web pages that I have browsed on the Amazon website are known to Amazon. So they know what web pages I visited. That's very interesting information. They know what product bundles I made. So I bought a book, I bought a DVD, and whatever kind of other things, not a DVD, maybe some music I bought, and so on. So that's a product bundle that Amazon knows that you're interested in. So that gives very actionable information to Amazon. And if afterwards I want to file a complaint, I can also do it on the Amazon website, as such, giving it very actionable information in terms of customer satisfaction, customer dissatisfaction, and complaint handling. The information is available to all market participants because the website is up 24/7. Everybody can find it. We have ubiquity. So everybody has access to all kinds of information. So we have a significant amount of reduced information asymmetry, which creates price, cost, and product quality transparency. So all of this contributes to that idea of Jeff Bezos, 1 million customers, 1 million stores, or mass personalization and customization, and hence also creates the possibility of an almost unlimited price discrimination. Now, let's take a step back in time, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to illustrate some of the history behind the internet and doing e-business and some of the failures. But first, let's take a step back and look at commerce in general. Let's say I want to buy a pair of Nike shoes in the traditional world. The traditional world is not the online world, it's the offline world, it's the physical world. So if I want to buy Nike shoes, I'm going to find a seller. So I'm going to find an online I'm going to find a physical retailer, a physical shop somewhere here in Leuven that sells Nike shoes. I go and visit that shop physically. I select the Nike shoes, or maybe I select a few of them, try them out, and the one that fits the most, I'm actually going to try and purchase. Maybe there's some margin for negotiation, right? Maybe with the retail owner of the shop, with the shop owner, I can negotiate the price. Usually that's not the case, or there's only limited margin available, but if possible, I can at least give it a shot and try to negotiate the price. If the merchant and me, who's interested in buying the Nike shoes, agree on the price, a sale takes place, payment is being done, I take the shoes with me, delivery, and maybe there's some post-sale activity because maybe the day after I see that the shoes are not fitting quite well and I want to bring them back and want to have a bigger size. That's post-sale activity. That's commerce in the physical offline world. Let's see how this has changed to the online world. In the online world, we have various technologies that are being used and that are enumerated to the left of my slide. If nowadays I want to buy Nike shoes, what I do, search engine, Google Nike shoes. And I'm going to look at various types of websites where I can buy Nike shoes, and I'm going to compare them. Each of those websites will have an online product catalog. It will offer Nike shoes, it will offer shirts, it will offer socks, it will offer sweaters. So the online catalog will allow me to quickly browse online the various types of products that are being offered. Maybe there's a recommender agent that will help me in making my decisions, because the recommender agents will maybe know what pages on the websites I already visited. Maybe it has made a profile out of me, and maybe it will give me target recommendations because it knows I'm interested, for example, in Nike shoes to play tennis. The configurator is a piece of software that allows me to configure the Nike shoe. So I can perfectly say, this is the shoe I want, this is the size I want, this is the color I want, and these are the laces I want. The shopping bot will help me in the shopping experience. It's a piece of software that will guide me through the shopping experience. Maybe I can make use of an aggregator, because I'm not the only one that wants Nike shoes. I have a friend that wants Nike shoes. I have another friend that wants Nike shoes. An aggregator is going to aggregate various types of customers that are interested in purchasing Nike shoes. And rather than making a request to buy one pair of Nike shoes, the aggregator will make a request to make, let's say, 100 pair of Nike shoes. And as such, the aggregator puts it into a better negotiating position such that it can negotiate a better price. As such, benefiting each of the customers who are interested in buying Nike shoes. So the aggregator aggregates various types of product requests, various types of purchases of Nike shoes, such that it can make a better deal. The automated agents, various types of automated agents can then be included, one of which will be a transaction processor that will allow you to set up the transaction, to create the transaction. There will be some data interchange. I will have to tell you my socio-demographic information, my address where the Nike shoes have to be delivered, and obviously also payment information. All of this is highly sensitive information, which is very important from a cybersecurity perspective. So cryptography will be very important to make sure that our data is well encrypted. Once my online market basket has been nicely configured, a payment transaction will be used, such as PayPal or Stripe, to conduct the online transaction. A tracking agent can then also be used to help me track the Nike shoes as they make their way through the supply chain from the manufacturer to the distributor and then forward through some kind of logistics service until they reach my home address. Online help desks, and chatbots can be used for post-sale activity. Most of the times it will be chatbots that will help us for post-sale activity. Throughout this whole process, you will see various types of information as being gathered. The search behavior. The search terms I enter into Google are very interesting information for Nike to know. Let's say I enter a search term into Google, and then the first website I see is Nike, and actually I log on to the Nike website. Once I've navigated from Google to the Nike website, Nike knows that I come through Google, and it also knows what search terms I entered. That's very actionable information for Nike to do its online marketing, something that we will discuss later in the section on online marketing, but also in the section on web analytics. When I browse the Nike website, Nike knows what pages I've seen. So it knows what pages I'm interested in, so it can understand my interests that will help it give recommendations to me. When I select my goods, I select the shoes, I select the size, I select the color, the style. That tells Nike a lot of information about the customer preferences, which is very important for promotions, for example. From the negotiation step, it will give insights in terms of the price sensitivities, bargaining strategies, and from the sale, it will understand the market basket, because maybe I buy Nike shoes, Nike shirt, Nike socks, and it will try and find associations like what Nike shoes are often purchased with what socks, with what shirts, etc. Because if it understands that, if it understands what products are frequently part of the market basket and hence purchased together, it can do targeted recommendations. There's also credit payment information that is made available, obviously. Then there's delivery requirements, like when the goods should be delivered. There will be online problem reports that are going to give us insight into customer satisfaction, and obviously also maybe some interesting follow-up leads or sales opportunities. So you see to the left, we have the various technologies used, and to the right, we have all the information that is gathered and which can be analyzed using artificial intelligence. Now, what about delivery of goods or services? The Nike shoes have to be delivered physically to my doorstep, right? But services, for example, those can be 100% electronically delivered. This gives a considerable cost reduction potential, right? Nowadays, all of us are doing electronic banking. How long has it been since you visited your bank physically? Probably a long time, right? Unless you need to ask for a mortgage or something like that, although you can also do that in the online world, but most often that will require a physical meeting. But most of our banking activities are electronic. Online trading, fully electronic. Online job markets, fully electronic. Travel services, boarding passes, fully electronic, right? All of these are examples of electronic services. There's a few examples of digitized products like music, books, games, and apps. These can be entirely delivered electronically. You can download a new app that gives you a particular type of service. Think about a dating app, for example. Other products, physical products, for these we need a reliable, cost-effective physical delivery strategy. For example, by means of a third-party logistic provider like DHL or UPS. Order fulfillment then refers to all the activities needed to provide customers with the ordered goods and services, including related customer services, such as reverse logistics. So imagine that the Nike shoes are delivered to my doorstep, and the day after I see it's not the size that I ordered, then I want to return them, right? So that's reverse logistics. So that means that there need to be facilities for reverse logistics. So logistics involves all the operations for efficient and effective flow and storage of goods, services, and related information from the point of origin, the manufacturer, to the point of consumption, which is my home address. Now, there's been a change in traditional versus e-logistics. Traditionally, in the offline world, in the physical world, it was large amounts of shoes, of products that were sent to a few physical retailers in the physical world. Nowadays, with e-logistics, it's small parcels. It's just a pair of shoes sent to many homes, to my individual doorstep, using logistics suppliers. We also see a growing popularity of click and collect, especially with supermarkets. Many people nowadays, when they have to do their grocery shopping, what they basically do is they go online to the supermarket website, they do their shopping, they make their market basket online, click, 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 add to market basket, and they then go and collect it in the physical world. They then go and collect it at the supermarket. Reverse logistics, as I mentioned, is handling returns, sometimes also for handling products, used products, for recycling, refurbishment, or disposal of products, which is very important in the circular economy, where we try to minimize waste as much as possible. All these logistics activities are typically equipped with real-time tracking, such that we know using QR codes, using online tracking, using RFID tags, or using any type of online tracking technologies that we will extensively cover later on, such that we know where the product is situated in the supply chain. We will also typically see very flexible delivery options, such as last mile delivery innovations like lockers which are being put in strategic places in cities or in areas. Think about bring me boxes, where people can go and collect the products that they purchased. Think about drones. Amazon is using drones in certain regions of the US to deliver products directly to the doorstep of their customers. Or think about self-driving or autonomous vehicles. All of this is based upon greater reliance on automation and smart warehouses. A smart warehouse is a warehouse that is equipped with digital technologies to continuously monitor the products that are present in the warehouse, that are available in the warehouse, the packages, etc., such that it has a continuous update on its inventory and knows what product package should be sent to what location at what time using what technology. Here you can see a page that I borrowed from Amazon on drone delivery. Here you can see what is drone delivery. It's an ultra-fast delivery that safely delivers one package up to 5 pounds, because the drone can only carry up to 5 pounds. Obviously, that will change in the near future, in less than an hour. Various types of companies can be distinguished in the so-called new economy, the internet or web-enabled economy. Bricks and mortar companies or old economy companies are only present in the physical world. An example of these are local grocery stores. They're only present in the physical world. Pure play or virtual organizations are companies that are only engaged in electronic commerce and that have no presence in the physical world. Popular example are Amazon, Zalando, and Spotify. There's not like an Amazon shop or a Zalando or Spotify shop that we can visit. Clicks and mortar companies have some e-commerce, but their primary business is situated in the physical world. Examples are Walmart, Nike, and IKEA. Let's take a step back in time and look at some of the history behind the internet and e-business, because it's important for you to understand this, I think. When the internet became popular, when internet technologies were introduced, many people they're thinking about starting up their own online business, their own online .com company, their own online company that relied on network economies. Because the idea was to start up a website providing a certain type of product, a certain type of service, and hoping for a network effect, hoping that many people were going to be interested in the product, were going to be interested in the service, so that after a while I could start gaining money, I could start making profit. So the idea was to first, oftentimes these companies, they gave away their product for free because they wanted to gain market share or mind share. Mind share means that customers are aware of your existence. They wanted to give their product or service away for free, hoping for a critical mass, hoping for a network effect, such that once they have a substantial amount of customers that are potentially interested in a product or service, they can charge for it and start making profit. But not all of them were successful. Not all of them reached that stage of network effects, of network economies. And many of them were just burning up cash, were just losing money, hoping to reach the network effect at a particular stage, but never reached it and went bankrupt. And that's what created what we refer to as the stock market bubble. When speculators note the fast increase in value, decide to buy in anticipation of further rises, until many companies start going bankrupt because they never reach that network effect. They never reach that critical mass. They never reach that point when they could start charging money for their products or services. They went bankrupt, and that's when the Nasdaq crashed somewhere late in the year 2000. So the bubble burst in the late year 2000 and further through 2001, when because of that bubble burst, the Nasdaq significantly dropped. That's what we call the stock market bubble, because many online companies went bankrupt without ever reaching, without ever realizing network economies. Here you can see an example of Pets.com. Pets.com was an initiative that was also supported by Jeff Bezos, the boss of Amazon.com. He was one of the early investors in Pets.com. It provided pet supplies online, but it turned out that they never reached the stage of network economies, so it wasn't turned out to be not a profitable business model. They went bankrupt. And there's many of examples like this, business concepts that simply did not work on the internet. I will let you read this for a moment. Okay, but the dot-com bubble burst didn't mean the end of e-business. It was not the failure of business to consumer altogether. Some survived. Some managed to survive and thrive. Some managed to make profit. So end of 2002, about 40% of the surviving dot-coms and 70% of the online retailers in the US were reporting profits. So Amazon, in fact, started making profits in the fourth quarter of 2001. So here you can see that being depicted. You can see here the estimated quarterly US retail e-commerce sales as a percentage of total quarterly retail sales. And as I said, Amazon, they waited for this network effect, and they were able to successfully realize the network effect and started making profits in the fourth quarter of 2001. I updated this graph to more recent numbers, and here you can see the percentage again of estimated quarterly US retail e-commerce sales as a percentage of the total quarterly retail sales. You kind of see a flattening effect here around 17%, right? Maybe it's going to increase further, or maybe it's going to stabilize. That's up for the future to show us. Note that we already distinguished between B2B and B2C. And if you look at the market share of e-business, you will see that B2B commerce counts for about 80%. It's a rough estimate of the market share, whereas B2C only counts for about 20%. And that's because obviously there are some differences between B2B and B2C. Remember the difference. B2C is Amazon selling products to us. B2B is Unilever and Gillette selling products to Carrefour. It's companies mutually collaborating with each other in the digital world. So these companies, this B2C, typically involves more complex process because there's extensive negotiation over prices. Gillette and Carrefour is going to sit together and are going to negotiate not only over prices, the products that should be delivered, but also all kinds of other terms like when the product should be delivered, when orders should be placed, and so on. So there's lots of negotiation about prices, about product specifications, about product deliveries, and so on. And in B2B, you will often see that these relations are often longer term and that there's a higher stickiness. That means that if if Carrefour sets up a collaboration with Unilever or with Gillette, that typically this is a long-term collaboration. This is as opposed to B2C, because if I order something on Amazon and if I'm unhappy, then for me, I can very easily switch to an online retailer right away. So there's no stickiness in B2C. In B2B, you will see higher stickiness. So oftentimes in B2B, you will often see that companies like Gillette, Unilever will integrate their systems with Carrefour. There will be IT systems integration for process efficiency and for making the entire chain very efficient because it focuses on realizing process and cost efficiencies in a collaborative commerce setup. So you're going to see network of partners, Gillette, Unilever, Coca-Cola, that set up these very efficient B2B systems, IT systems, integrated IC systems together with Carrefour to realize process and cost efficiencies in this collaborative commerce setup. There are, however, some e-commerce adoption barriers, especially for the smaller players like the SMEs, the small and medium-sized enterprises. Not every small and medium-sized enterprises is digital ready. They're not, though more and more are being ready, but still there are some that are lagging behind because sometimes e-business requires a very small investment. Think about the local grocery store that wants to stay in a physical world but doesn't want to go e-commerce because it's not ready, it's not prepared, it doesn't have the funds to go online, and it's happy as is in the physical world. Also, other very important adoption barriers are regulatory barriers, especially in Europe. We see a regulation like Global Data Protection Regulation and the Digital Services Act that put very strict guidelines on what data can be collected, for what purpose data could be used, when data should be removed, and so on. Another barrier is the suitability of the product. If I have to buy a pair of trousers myself, I like to feel and touch it, I like to fit it first. I'm not going to do it online. I hate shopping. I really hate shopping. But if I do it once, at most twice a year, and I do it in a physical world because I want to feel and touch if I have to buy any new clothes. Sometimes there's trust issues because as soon as you start engaging in the online world, you're being vulnerable to fraud. There could be societal barriers, definitely in developing countries, where we still see a lot of socioeconomic differences between communities in their access to digital technologies and internet. For example, in Africa, we see that this is still a very important issue to go online. And obviously, if you want to set up an e-business, it needs an initial investment. You also need to think about logistics and order fulfillment challenges. If you're selling physical products online, you have to carefully think about how you can bring them to the doorstep of your customers, and obviously make sure that you're also not victim of cybersecurity, right? So there's lots of e-commerce adoption barriers that you can see listed here. Let's look at the economic impact of digitalization or digitization. We're going to look at the macroeconomic impact of digitization, the impact on the value chain, and then the strategic impact. Now, how has the internet changed the economics of information? The internet has substantially changed information asymmetry. All information is available on the internet 24/7. I can continuously look at the prices and conditions that of my competitors, right? So I can continuously look what products are my competitors offering, what prices are they charging, what are the delivery options that they're providing, and also very interesting, what are people complaining about at my competitors' websites? Now, because of the shrinking of information asymmetry, it's easier for customers to compare and obtain pricing info. And there's actually websites that do that for us. For example, if you want to apply for a mortgage nowadays, there's websites that will help you say what is the amount you want to borrow, what is the duration of the loan, for what purpose, and so on. And it's going to look for the cheapest mortgage for you because of the shrinking of information asymmetry. So this allows you to extend both the reach and the richness of the information provision, because digital channels are nowadays capable of reaching a very wide audience. Remember what I said earlier about ubiquity and 24/7. And there's these opportunities for mass personalization. Remember what Jeff Bezos tells us 1 million customers, 1 million shops. So the internet has reduced transaction costs. So if you compare it to the physical way of doing business, where finding buyers typically relied on mass mailings of expensive brochures, television and radio ads, and nowadays we can actually um, start up a website. We don't have to do any mass mailing of expensive brochures or invest in expensive television and radio ads. But we can set up our website. It's available 24/7. We can do fully automatic collection of payments without any intervention from our behalf, because it's a payment transaction broker like PayPal or Stripe who's going to do that for us. In some cases, we can deliver the digital product. In other cases, we still have to set up a logistics chain to do that. And the support can also be fully automated using chatbots, emails, frequently asked questions, user forums, and so on. So what you see is, thanks to this digitalization, thanks to the new digital technologies, is that for a given firm size, the transaction costs have substantially decreased. Now, let's look at a traditional macroeconomic picture. For traditional industries with physical or tangible products, you will see that the following cost structure. You will see an average cost structure that has like a U shape. You will see the marginal revenue. This is the price, the marginal revenue, it's just the price, and the marginal cost. The marginal cost is derivative of the total cost versus the quantity. So the marginal cost is the cost of producing an extra product, such as a car. It typically increases as the production capacity becomes more and more stretched. And where are we going to find the optimal number of units? Where is profit maximized? Well, profit is maximized where the marginal revenue equals the marginal cost. So each competitor makes maximum profit when they set their production output to the level where the marginal cost equals the price or equals the marginal revenue. So that's the cost picture that we typically have for traditional industries with tangible products. How did digital products or services like apps, music, and game change this? Well, we have near zero marginal costs, because for Spotify, there's a very negligible cost of an extra download or copy. For a game or an app, it's a negligible cost it's just an extra download or copy. It's not, if somebody downloads a new app or if somebody purchases your app, it's not like you have to build a new kind of factory. It doesn't work like that. It's just an extra download and you're earning money. So you have near zero marginal costs. Most of the costs are fixed and incurred early at the start, because most of these costs pertain to hardware or developing the app. Once we have developed the app, the costs have been incurred. And whether we then sell 1,000 or 10,000 apps, we have near zero marginal cost. We're going to have more profit, but we're going to have near zero marginal cost. Whether we're selling 1,000 or 1 million apps, the cost is not that much for us, the additional cost, because most of the costs were fixed and incurred early. So that creates an incentive, because you can see the marginal cost is fixed right here and low, and the marginal revenue is fixed. So that creates an incentive to cut prices to gain market share. But obviously, our competitors will do the same, so it will trigger our rivals to do the same. And something that we have to take care of there is that the fixed costs at some point are no longer recovered. There's a negative price spiral. There's a race to the bottom, and profits essentially disappear. So that's the cost picture in a digital product setting. So apart from the marginal costs approaching zero, digital products or services have near unlimited economies of scale. If I sell 1,000 apps or 1 million apps, it's near unlimited economies of scale. I have new or few capacity constraints, right? So you just have a website which is hosted on a powerful platform, and you can start selling online services. Obviously, the platform that you host your website on needs to become more powerful as more services or more products or more apps are being sold from a particular point onwards. So the costs are high, fixed. There's an intellectual capital. Uh, that means that the cost for developing the app um, versus the plant and the equipment, the factory, that was the investment in the physical world in a traditional cost picture of a traditional business. So the fixed costs are incurred early and may not be recoverable. And obviously, as I said, this could lead to a race to the bottom or a downward price spiral. And there's a couple of strategies to deal with that. That's patenting. So if you have a new idea, a new type of app that you want to launch, you can file a patent for it. And once you file a patent for it, you're the only one that actually can launch this idea. Obviously, patent filing is very expensive. That's very important. And you don't always get a patent granted because there's lots of market dynamics that need to be respected, like there shouldn't be a monopoly, etc. So patenting is one way to avoid a negative downwards price spiral or race to the bottom, but it's not always successful. You cannot always be successful. Versioning means that you're going to develop various versions or regular updates of the app to make sure that customers stay with you, that they don't churn, that they don't go and buy the product elsewhere. That's versioning. And then obviously what's also very important is to create network effects and try to derive extra value from it. Try to make sure that your product or service it has the attention of a network of customers as such that you create a strong stickiness of that network towards your product or service. And product bundling is also a strategy to try and avoid downwards price spiral. Instead of one product, make sure you have all kinds of add-ons that can be also purchased and that give more customer satisfaction and actually increase the intensity of the customer relationship such that it avoids them from churning and go and buy the product elsewhere. What's the impact on the value chain? Well, the internet offers an entirely new distribution channel. Nike, for example, it can set up a website, and because of the internet, once it's set up the website, it can start directly selling on its website. So it no longer needs to ship the Nike shoes to the distributors, to the retailers, and from there to the customers, because now Nike can directly sell on its website, which creates a channel conflict because obviously the distributors of Nike will not be happy when they see that Nike shoes are now directly being sold on the website. The retailers will also not be happy. So that's a channel conflict because of the channel tension if Nike starts to sell its shoes online, its products online. And that has now become possible thanks to the internet because the internet has led to the unbundling of information from traditional value chain channels. It is doing what we call disintermediation. Disintermediation is cutting out the middleman. Cutting out the middleman means that the distributors are no longer needed, the retailers are no longer needed, because now Nike can directly sell customers on its website, use a third-party logistics provider, which is a new type of middleman, that's what we refer to as reintermediation, and use that third-party logistics provider to bring the shoes to the various home addresses of the customers. So disintermediation is getting rid of the distributors, the retailers. Reintermediation is use of new type of middlemen like logistics providers to bring the shoes to the doorstep of their customers. So internet has substantially changed relations with suppliers and other business partners. It has increased opportunities for integration. It has lower entry barriers. So if as a customer you want to set up a business on the internet, it's very easy. You could just set up a website and start selling your product or service. So the setup cost is very low. And it also offers increased flexibility for choosing your partners. Because on the internet, if you're dissatisfied with one partner, you almost have a plug and play architecture. If I'm dissatisfied with PayPal, for example, on my website, I can use another payment transaction processor like Stripe. So I'm very flexible on my website as to what payment mechanism I want to adopt or use. So here you can see the value chain. The value chain are the set of activities both within the company as well as outside that focus on adding value. So here you can see the firm value chain, inbound logistics, where you receive certain types of goods, where you have a warehouse, operations logistics, operations activities, where you do the manufacturing, make the product, outbound logistics, then sales and marketing, and then customer service. So that's a set of activities within the company, each aimed at adding value. The margin is then the value added minus the cost of the incoming products or sources. This is the firm value chain, but a firm does not operate in isolation. It's part of an industry value chain, also called a value system. This was, for example, the value chain of a manufacturer, which connects to suppliers, distributors, retailers, and consumers. All of them aim at adding value. But the internet has now created this disintermediation effect or this channel conflict because Nike no longer needs the distributor or retailer. It can directly sell shoes on its website or any type of other products, which obviously creates tension among the different distribution chains for the same product or service. Because now Nike has a web-based direct sales channel. It can directly sell its products on its website. So this is the risk. It creates a risk of alienating and making redundant traditional sales representatives. So traditional sales representatives, Nike sales representatives that were actually selling Nike shoes to customers, they become redundant because Nike now has a website which is capable to take over these activities. Just like distributors now become relevant as well, because now Nike can now directly sell to end customers. So this in the past has created some very serious legal lawsuits between distributors and retailers, because as soon as a distributor or a retailer sees that the manufacturer, Nike, starts selling shoes directly on the website, it can actually make a threat and say, we're going to do a lockout. That means that the distributor says, if you're selling Nike shoes directly on your website, that's fine, but then we don't sell Nike shoes anymore. So either you choose, either you sell them on your website and we don't sell them, or either you don't sell them on your website and we keep on selling them, distributing them to retailers, and as such, shipping the products through the entire supply chain. So a lockout means that one of the partners in this whole chain says, I don't want to sell any of your products anymore because you're directly selling the products on your website and engaging in direct competition with myself. Usually, that was because of that power chains, because of the different forces that play there. There's various options like channel cooperation. I'm going to discuss the case of Nike later on as we progress through the slides. Usually, it's some kind of intermediate solution that is being pursued. Note that the disintermediation is usually also not instantaneous. So the idea is to placate partners to make sure to ease them a bit in the distribution channel, right? Oftentimes you will see that these big manufacturers are gonna actually look for to ease to make sure that the partners in the distribution channel are put at ease while actually sometimes gently taking steps towards the demise of these relationships. You can see that here. So here in Nike is the manufacturer, the distributor, the retailer. Well, this was the traditional chain, and the cost for a Nike sweater, let's say, was $48.50. But because of this internet, because of e-business, because of the fact that Nike is now capable to directly sell its products online, it can gently move away some of these intermediaries, disintermediation. So get rid of the distributor first, and then actually it can get rid of the distributor and the retailer, resulting into significant cost savings. Instead of $48.50, now it's $20.45. So disintermediation is removal of these intermediate steps in the value network by selling directly to consumers, which will result into lower purchase costs and potential price advantages. Reintermediation means that new parties become relevant. So shifting of the intermediary function in the value chain to new parties, delivery companies, they become a critical part of the customer satisfaction for fulfilling the logistics. So logistics companies gained importance like DHL, UPS, etc., because they deliver the packages to the doorstep of the customers. You also see new types of intermediaries like information brokers, marketplaces, intelligent agents, and so on that we're going to come back to later on more extensively. Here you can see the example of Nike. Nike historically relied on retail partners. Like Foot Locker was a physical shop that was very popular and known and where you could buy Nike shoes. But all of a sudden, with the emergence of internet and e-business, Nike expanded its online business through its website. So people could buy Nike shoes online or through mobile apps or flagship stores. These are stores that typically Nike owns itself and where you have like a unique Nike experience for people that still want to shop physically. The way they channeled the channel conflict was to focus on the big players, the big ones, and cut ties with the underperforming retailers. They also did omni-channel integration. That means you buy online and pick up in a store at some of their partner stores. That's another way to actually tackle the channel conflict. Or another way that they also pursued was to offer exclusive online products, while some of the partners then focus on selling the mainstream collection. So they have different types of products that are being sold by the retailers versus the ones that are being sold online. They also actually shared some of their customer insights that they gained through online data analysis and AI or data analytics with some of their retail partners. And they focused on premium service, personalization, and a unique in-store and online experience. So they try to distinguish between the in-store retail experience and the online experience. As such, catering the needs of customers that want to um, um, buy products online versus customers that want to buy products in store. Here you can see Porter's five forces model, which kind of depicts how value is typically distributed between various partners as part of an economic activity. See, the way value is distributed in a particular type of industry depends upon the internal competition, the internal rivalry between existing competitors, the threat of new entrants, how easy it is to enter into that industry branch, the bargaining power of suppliers, how powerful are suppliers, how easy is it for them to increase the price, for example, without you being capable of doing something about it. What is the threat of substitute products or services? And what is the bargaining power of customers? How easily can customers switch from one supplier to another? So it is these five forces, the threat of new entrants, the bargaining power of customers and suppliers, the internal competition, and the threat of substitute products and services that is going to determine how value within a particular industry sector is determined and distributed. And the internet has significantly changed that. The bargaining power of suppliers is typically low because it's very easy to switch from supplier in an e-business setting. The rules are often set by the brands. This is what I want. This is what I want from my supplier. And the supplier has to follow those rules. It has to follow that code of conduct. And once a company is no longer happy with its supplier, it will switch to another supplier. If I'm no longer happy with PayPal, then I will switch to Stripe. And it's very easy to do so, right? So there's typically, because of the internet, low bargaining power of the suppliers. Bargaining power of buyers is high because there's almost no switching cost. It's very easy to switch. Thanks to the internet, thanks to e-business, it's very easy to switch for a buyer to buy from Amazon. And if they're no longer happy with Amazon, they can go to Alibaba or any type of online retailer. The threat of substitute products is high, right? Because the threat comes now not only from offline shops, but also from online shops. Very easy to start up a new website, a new online business that is offering competitor products. The threat of new entrants, low or high, depends a bit. First of all, yeah, if you're entering a business that is already very competitive, then, for example, if I would like to compete with Amazon or Alibaba, the threat of entrance is high, right? Because I have to do lots. I probably will never be successful. There's high investment needed to build brand image and to build trust. So I'll never reach that network effect that I referred to earlier on quite a lot. But in certain types of other sectors, the threat of new entrants can be high. The rivalry in the industry is very high because of this new price dynamics that we have. Because of the fact that, for example, the marginal costs of digital products or services is almost zero. So the rivalry in the industry, because of that race to the bottom negative price effect, is high because we have many players that are continuously competing with one another. Okay, so now let's look at this was the introduction. So now let's now look at the second part, which are different types of business models that are facilitated thanks to the emergence of e-business. So what's a business model? A business model is a way of doing business by which a company can create value. So this is gonna specify its position within a value chain, and the aim is that the company will make profit and as such can sustain itself. So this describes how the company creates, delivers, and captures value. And there are some simple business models that have been in place for decades or centuries already. And the idea is to produce a good or service, selling it to customers, make sure that the sale price is bigger than all the costs, such that the difference is your margin, is your profit, and that you're successful. But thanks to e-business, there's more complex business models that are now possible, like online advertising. Online advertising is a big chunk of the online business. And later on in this chapter, we're going to have a separate section that is devoted to online advertising. And we're going to discuss various types of online advertising mechanisms. So all very sophisticated. Marketplaces are another type of e-business model. Freemium models, sharing economy, all of these we will explain in what follows. So you can see the business models. We'll start again with a brief recap of e-commerce, advertising. We're not going to say a lot about advertising in this section because we will do it later on in another section more extensively. Subscription business models, freemium, crowdsourcing, crowdfunding, lead generation, HaaS, IaaS, PaaS, SaaS, data monetization, e-auctions, sharing economy, and marketplaces. E-commerce. These are just simple products or services bought and sold electronically. We already mentioned that. Typically make use of a payment transaction broker. We have a 24/7 digital storefront, a web page. We can personalize that web page based upon customers' preferences, needs. We have to make sure that logistics have been put into place to deliver especially physical products to the doorstep of our customers and reverse logistics. So think about Amazon, Zalando, and Alibaba. That's all very straightforward and easy. Advertising, there's different types of advertising models, display advertising through banners. There's search engine advertising using Google, such as search engine optimization or pay-per-click. We will elaborate on that later on in the chapter. There's social media advertising, like on Instagram. There's native advertising, affiliate marketing, there's email marketing, pop-ups, pop-banners, interstitials. All of that will be discussed in more detail when we tackle the section on online advertising. Subscription models are models like at the bottom of my slide, like Netflix, Spotify, Adobe Creative Cloud. Adobe Creative Cloud allows you to edit figures, edit movies, and gives you access to all kinds of media editing content that allows you to edit your movies and figures, edit your photos and movies, etc. Think about dating apps, which is also subscription model. And the idea is that the customers pay a recurring fee monthly or yearly for continued access to the product or service, right? Listening to songs on Spotify. You can have different subscription levels, often basic, premium, and enterprise, each with their particular set of features. Often what you will see is that these businesses offer free trials or freemium options to just attract users, to make sure that users get familiar with the product, know the product characteristics, and for the more advanced features, for the more exclusive options, then they need to pay and engage into a subscription model. So the idea is then to provide ongoing value, new content, new songs, new videos, updates, maybe just new services to make sure that the recurring fee is justified. So this typically, from a business perspective, typically results If you can reduce churn, if you can make sure that customers don't leave you, this will typically result into a very predictable and stable revenue stream. So this is a very important and well-known e-business model. Freemium is that actually is a bit related to subscription in the sense that it's a business model, it's a special type of subscription model where some of the core product or service is offered at no cost just to attract users, as I just mentioned on my previous slide. And then for the advanced features, content, functionality are available for paying users. So because of the fact that no payment needs to take place, the no payment barrier encourages a trial and viral growth. The no payment barrier allows customers to get used to your product and service and then hopefully convert into a full customer. So this relies on a conversion, which is typically very small according to industry standards, but it depends a bit on the industry sector. But usually it's around 2 to 5%. Think about Spotify, Dropbox, and LinkedIn. Many of us are on Dropbox, on LinkedIn, Spotify without paying, but then they get advertisements. They get more advertisements. Either they get more advertisements or they get access to only a limited set of features. So this works best when the marginal cost of serving additional free users is low. Then we have crowdsourcing. Crowdsourcing is the idea to source resources, to get resources from a crowd, from a big bunch of people. So we're going to outsource to a large online crowd. So we're going to rely on the wisdom of crowds, the wisdom of lots of people collaborating to do something and to help us perform a certain type of activity, a certain type of problem in a cost-effective way. So an example of this is Amazon Mechanical Turk. So I'm just going to click this. Amazon Mechanical Turk is very good allows you to get access to a global on-demand 24x7 workforce. It's a crowdsourcing marketplace, makes it easier for individuals and businesses to outsource certain types of processes or jobs, right? Optimizes efficiency, increases flexibility, and so on. So here how it works. A requester has a task that needs to be completed. Let's say I have some images. I have a set of images and I want someone to find out what is on the images, like whether there's a cat on the image, there's a dog on the image, there's an elephant on the image. But I have 1,000 of these images that should be labeled as there's a cat on there, there's a dog on there, there's an elephant on there, there's an alligator on there. Then I can use this set of images, give it to Amazon Mechanical Turk, and a set of Turkers, we call it Turkers, is going to work and going to label, and these images, well, someone is going to say, they're just going to say there's a dog on here, there's a cat on there, there's an elephant on there. So they do this repetitive job and then give you back the results. That's how Amazon Mechanical Turk works. Small task, operational, and is being done by workers. Yeah. 99 Designs is to crowdsource logos, graphics. It's another crowdsourcing platform. I'll just click it as well. Here it allows us to create logos. Let's have a look. Categories. So here it allows us to create logos, web app designs, allows us to do all kinds of advertisements. So I used it before to design a logo of one of the firms that I worked with. We used that to design a logo. So that's an outsourcing business for logo. With Stack Overflow, it's an outsourcing business, a crowdsourcing platform for computer program, application programming, right? So here you can see people can actually file questions right here, right? And then people can actually answer these questions. So here we use the wisdom of crowds to actually help address a certain particular type of question. So here you can see that somebody has some problems in Python with loading a pandas data frame into an Excel table, and then the wisdom of crowds is being used to answer that to address that particular type of task. And you can see that on Stack Overflow. There's also votes that are being assigned. Votes are being assigned based on how interesting the particular problem is. Let's see, here I have -1 vote. So somebody says, this problem is totally uninteresting. So, I mean, I don't find it very relevant. One vote, that means that somebody says, well, that's an interesting problem. I would like to know the answer as well. So the more votes a particular type of programming problem gets, the more people will obviously try and answer that. That is Stack Overflow. Wikipedia is another example of crowdsourcing. Now, crowdfunding is a particular type of crowdsourcing where the idea is to get funds, right, through a crowd. Usually, the way funds were acquired was that money was borrowed from a bank, from a venture capital investor, or money was received from a business angel. So we got large amounts from one or a few sources. In crowdfunding, what we get small amounts, but from a large number of sources. So small amounts, but from large numbers. A lot of people um, can actually sponsor a project and invest small amounts to gather a big amount in order to launch a new product, launch a new project, and so on. And there's different types of crowdfunding. There's donation based. That means that you just donate a particular a particular amount of money for a particular type of project, and you don't expect anything in return. So there's no reward expected. This is typically the case for charities. Reward based. That means that funders get a product or perk. That means that they fund the project, a new product, for example, and they get something in return. They get first-hand access to the product, or they get a free version of the product, a free copy of the product, because they engaged into reward-based crowdfunding. Equity-based means that the funders get ownership in the business. They get an ownership or a share in the business. This is highly regulated both in the US and the EU, by the way. And debt-based is lending, or debt-based crowdfunding or lending is pretty much like a traditional loan. Is funders lend the money, but they expect a repayment with interest in return. Here you can see some platforms. Let's look at the most well-known platforms for crowdfunding are Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe. Let's do Kickstarter. Let's have a look at some. Here you can see that you can see a crowdfunding action for for some company that wanted to develop a new kind of personal 3D texture ultraviolet, I think this is printer. You can see how many people contributed, right? You can also see how much was asked for and how much was actually invested. So you can see that there was more invested than the amount that was asked for. So it's then up to the company and the rules that have been set up front to decide what has to be done with this excess money. But there's other things as well. So let's have a look at some games, for example. Somebody started here you can see all kinds of crowdfunding projects for games. Let's have a look at some design, right? So you can see here, you can see all kinds of crowdfunding projects, about 56,000 that are all focused on design. Let's have a look at food, maybe. Foods. Let's have a look here. This is somebody that wants to actually start a crowdfunding project to bring specialty Thai coffee to the US, some kind of branch. So it's that person wanted to crowd fund 26,000 euros, and he or she already obtained 11,641 euros. This is one type of project. This is, by the way, here you can see all or nothing. That's a very important thing that we're going to explain in a moment. All or nothing. That means that either the goal is reached and then the project is pursued. But if the goal of 26,000 is not reached, then the project is canceled. All or nothing means the goal is reached, the project is pursued. If the goal is not reached, then the project is canceled. Okay, so all or nothing, funds only kept if the goal is met and the project is pursued. This is what we see right here. Keep what you raise. The funds are kept even if the goal is not met. And obviously, this should be set clearly upfront before as part of the crowdfunding specifications. Benefits of crowdfunding, I think it's obvious. You have access to capital without traditional financing, without having to borrow from a bank. There's market validation. It's a kind of proof of concept because if you see many people engage in your crowdfunding project, it's because they believe in that. So it's a kind of proof of concept that, for example, this Thai, bringing this Thai coffee to the US, is that people believe in it, is that there's some interest in that Thai coffee in the US. Early marketing and visibility community. You're actually building a community of crowdfunders that can then be leveraged for other types of purposes, maybe for further marketing, downstream marketing. There's customer loyalty. You can get some feedback from your crowdfunders, which can help you refine the idea and so on. So there's a couple of very interesting examples here, like the Pebble smartwatch and Amanda Palmer. You can click on it. I'll just quickly click on it, right? So here, the Pebble smartwatch was um, some kind of e-paper smartwatch with up to 7 days of battery and a new timeline interface that highlights what's important in your day. And it was a very successful crowdfunding project because it was backed by more than 78,000 backers that pledged 20 million to help this project, bring this project to life. Later on, this was acquired by Fitbit, by the way. Then we have Amanda Palmer, that was an American singer-songwriter and performer, and she launched a Kickstarter campaign to fund her solo album, Theater is Evil, and accompanying tour. Initial goal was 100,000, but she raised over 1.2 million dollars from about 25,000 backers. So you can see crowdfunding can be really very successful. And I would invite you to also look at some of the other projects on Kickstarter. The key success factors for crowdfunding is that the most funding comes in the first 48 hours after the campaign was launched. Pretty obvious, because everything goes so fast on the internet. Campaigns with videos are usually 2 or 3 times more likely to succeed, and social media outreach is also very important, right? So making sure that your campaign is clearly visible on social media platforms also correlates with success. It's a big business, crowdfunding. It was estimated that about 2.14 billion crowdfunding projects were there in 2024, and it was projected to 5.53 billion by 2030. The most important and most popular type of crowdfunding is debt-based crowdfunding, which dominates the market. And in terms of industry sector, it's especially the food and beverage segment that dominates the market. And I invite you to have a look at this website for some further information. Okay, lead generation. A lead is a customer prospect, somebody that is potentially interested in buying your product or service. We can use the internet and all kinds of digital technologies to attract, capture, and sell qualified customer contacts or leads to businesses. The companies that are receiving those leads, they typically pay per lead, pay per sale, or via a subscription for lead access. And you see this often in industries such as real estate, financial services, insurance, education, SaaS, and home improvement. Here you can see Zillow, and you can actually click it as we do right here. This is an online real estate platform that helps users buy, sell, rent, and finance homes, offers property listings, home value estimates, we could call them Z estimates, and market data. It connects, right? So it connects agents with lenders and other real estate professionals, and as such is a very interesting example of lead generation. Cars.com, can't open file, so I'll leave that here. So I suggest you check the link. I'll make sure the link is okay in the final slide deck, because this is another example of lead generation where leads are collected for car dealers and financial service providers. Then we have HaaS, IaaS or IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. HaaS is hardware as a service. It's pretty much like leasing, where a hardware provider, owns and maintains hardware. That could be servers, that could be storage devices, networking gear. And the customer is then gonna, similar to leasing, it's not identical, but it's quite similar. It's gonna pay a subscription fee, which includes the installation, the support, any updates or upgrades and replacements. A popular example of this is Cisco HaaS, right, that you see right here, which is actually providing all kinds of services, hardware devices, Cisco devices like IP phones, WebEx desktops, room devices, and WebEx boards. So it's an example of HaaS, hardware as a service. IaaS goes a step further. It provides infrastructure as a service. So not only hardware, but it also has operating systems, OS, that it offers on top of that, networking, storage, and virtualized hardware. That means that customers, me myself here from now from my laptop, I can actually launch, configure, and manage a virtual server provided by an IIS or an infrastructure as a service provider on demand without owning physical equipment. So that from my laptop would give me access to very powerful computing environments, which is very good for flexible, scalable computing, where the customer can choose the operating system. I want a Mac operating system, I want a Windows operating system, I want a Linux operating system, I want this kind of software and this kind of security. So this is examples of this are Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, AWS EC2. Here you can see offers a broadcast and deepest compute platform with over 750 different configurations. You can choose the processor, the storage, network, operating system, Mac or Windows, purchase model, etc. So I would advise you to also briefly browse through this website. Microsoft Azure Virtual Machines is the counterpart of it by Microsoft. PaaS is platform as a service that offers, that's IaaS, right? So IaaS plus the operating system plus the runtime plus middleware plus development tools. So this is going to offer you tools like Python, R, Java, any type of programming tools. So it's going to offer a set of tools that allow you to develop very advanced applications. This is typical for application developers that can develop applications quickly without having to manage servers, storage, or runtime environments. It will also have built-in software and tools, database software, authentication, scaling that helps you with development and reduces the operational overhead. So PaaS is really very useful for application developers because it provides the entire application development environment for them. Example is the Google App Engine, right? Let's just open this, which allows you to build monolithic server-side rendered websites using popular development languages and a range of developer tools such as Java, Python, etc. SaaS is then software as a service. That means that the product has been pre-built. The software product is there. It's PaaS plus fully developed and ready-to-use applications, which the end users can access via web or app with no concern of hosting, updates, or infrastructure. Software is usually subscription-based with automatic updates. Think about Dropbox, think about Slack, think about Microsoft 365, right? So this goes further. So we started with hardware as a service, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and then software as a service. It gradually offers more and more facilities towards the end product of software services right here. Data monetization, the idea is that you're going to monetize data. It's another business model that is now being facilitated thanks to the internet and e-business. And the idea is to generate revenue by collecting, analyzing, typically using AI, and commercializing data that's been gathered from users, devices, or transactions. And that could be by selling the raw or aggregated data to third parties like advertisers, market researchers to better tailor their advertising campaigns to make sure that ads are more targeted towards the end users. And typically relies on large-scale data collection collected through the user activity. User activity could be the user browsing on your platform, through IoT devices, transactions, any type of data, which is then typically analyzed using artificial intelligence or data science techniques, of which the results are then sold to interesting counterparties, typically packaged into premium reports, dashboards, or APIs for paying clients. Examples are Waze, Uber, and Strava. We all know these apps. Waze is for navigating. Uber is the taxi, and Strava we know is for sports. That actually what they could do is they can gather data, and that's actually what they do. They can anonymize it. It's very, very important, especially in Europe with GDPR. They can analyze it and then sell the anonymized traffic mobility data to city planning services. Meta, the company behind Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram is going to do targeted advertising based on what users have liked, what users have shared, where users are located, if you allow Meta to have that information. So that's a very nice example of data monetization. Obviously, it needs to require with privacy regulations such as GDPR, Global Data Protection Regulation in the US, or the California Consumer Privacy Act. GDPR is in the EU, the California Consumer Privacy Act is in the US. Finally, auctions or auctions. The internet also facilitates auctions. Auctions are market mechanisms that allow us to sell products online, usually with competitive bidding for goods or services. It doesn't have to be goods or products, it could be services as well. But now all of this can be digitalized online, and that will be facilitated by an auction broker that brings together buyers and sellers, and it's going to sell a listing fee and a commission scaled with the value of the transaction. Let's have a look. Let's say I was born and raised in Brugge, which is a city in Belgium, and me and my kids, all of my kids are big fans of Club Brugge, which is the best team, obviously, in Belgium and beyond. And let's say I want to sell a signed shirt of Club Brugge. I have that. I have a signed shirt of Club Brugge. I'm not going to sell that, but this is a picture of my signed Club Brugge shirt that I have at home. What I could do, I'm not going to do that, but because it's too much value for me, but say I would need money, hopefully never, I can do a forward auction. Forward auction means that I put it on eBay, for example. I'm the seller, this is Bart, and obviously because it's a signed Club Brugge shirt, it will be many people will be interested in that. I'm sure people will be willing to buy, to offer a lot of money for that. So one seller, multiple buyer, and you're going to have ascending bids. So there's an upward pressure on the price. Bids are visible to all participants and the winner pays the highest bid. That's a forward auction, one seller, multiple buyers, upward pressure on the price. Now let's say that the situation is somewhat different. I'm a buyer, I'm interested in a signed Club Brugge shirt, but there's many people offering signed Club Brugge shirts. Then I have a single buyer and multiple seller, multiple people have that available. So the dynamics is a little bit different because I want to buy that shirt at the lowest price. So there will be a downward pressure on the price. That's what we call a reverse auction. Reverse auctions are particularly popular in procurement, where the buyer then chooses the seller that offers the product at the lowest price. There will be descending bids. Let's have a look at how this works in procurement. A company wants to procure 1,000 laptops. The buyer or the company issues a request for quote. It says what are the specifications for the laptops, what processor, what screen, and so on, what's the quality or compliance requirements, what are the delivery times. And then the request for quote is sent to pre-qualified suppliers, suppliers of whom the company knows that they're trustworthy, that they can provide the service. The buyer is then going to set the time and said, I need your quotes by a month from now, and the platform for the reverse auction. The buyer is then going to review the bid, and obviously there will be a downward pressure from the supplier's side to set low prices, and also not only low prices, but very tight delivery terms to make sure that the buyer hopefully reviews their bid, selects it because it's the lowest, and it meets all the RFQ requirements. Popular platform to do that is SAP Ariba. SAP, the well-known ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning software provider. Okay, so there's a lot of things to add to auctions. Proxy bidding is the mechanism that is being used by eBay, where you state your maximum bid. eBay allows you to state a maximum bid, which is hidden from other bidders, and the platform will then automatically place bids for you and try and keep you in the leading bid position as long as possible until your maximum bid is reached. So that means it's very handy. I put my maximum bid in there. eBay is going to try and keep me in the leading bid position, and I don't have to bother myself with it. So I don't need to monitor eBay constantly and increase my bid, adjust my bid. No, I state my maximum bid, and eBay will keep on bidding to try and keep me in the leading position. And it might end up beneficial for me because it might end up that I pay less than my maximum bid. I will also get outbid notifications if somebody bids a higher price than I did. Here you can see, this is how it works. I place a bid of $200. Let's say this is for the Club Brugge t-shirt. I place a bid of $200. Tom bids $60. So I bid more. So I'm winning. But this is 200 is my maximum bid. So eBay will now bid for me at 62. So I get the t-shirt from Club Brugge now at 62. Tom is notified. Tom, you've been outbid. So Tom increases his bid because obviously it's a signed t-shirt of Club Brugge. It's in high demand. So he increases his bid to 80. eBay now bids 82 for me, right? So this is eBay increases my bid to 82. So I'm still getting the t-shirt, but I have to pay 82. Tom gets again, you've been outbid. Sarah bids 100, a new bidder. So eBay now auto bids 102. So I still win because my maximum bid was 200, but now I have to pay 120. Tom bids 120. So Tom is notified. You're being outbid. eBay bids 122, right? So my bid, the amount of money that I need to pay, again increases. Sarah bids 140. So again, Sarah is notified. You've been outbid, but I have to pay more. Now I have to pay already 142. Sarah bids 148. Now I have to pay 150. All of a sudden, Sarah bids 210 right here. That means it's higher than my 200. So now I'm no longer in the game. I'm out of the game. So I get a message, Bart, you've been outbid. So obviously, because it's a t-shirt of Club Brugge, I highly want it. So I increase my bid to 250. So because Sarah had 210, the eBay outbids 212. Sarah bids 215, eBay bids 217, and then Tom bids 219, eBay bids 220 for me. Auction ends and I pay 220. So the winning bid is 220. It's less than what my maximum bid was because my maximum bid was 250, and eBay gets a fee. Let's say 10%. The supplier receives the one that sells the shirt gets $198, and eBay earns 22. Let's say. That's how it works, right? Proxy bidding. Obviously, there's various types of auctions, right? Dutch auctions. Dutch auctions is a very other dynamics of auctioning. The idea of a Dutch auction is that the price goes down until the bidder accepts it. When I was a kid, I went to Zeebrugge, which is the port of Bruges, and I went and saw how the fresh fish that was delivered with the ships, fishing, thanks to the fishermen, was being auctioned. It was with a big clock, and the clock had an arrow, and the arrow denotes the price. And the price goes down until a bidder accepts it, right? This is often used for selling multiple identical items. Like in the Netherlands, this is often used to sell flowers. What you see on the picture here are flowers. Perishable goods or fresh fish, as I saw it when I was a small kid in Zeebrugge. Sealed bid auctions is when I put a sealed bid in an envelope. It's being collected by the auction agency, and the highest one wins. This is often used for government contracts. Victory auctions are bids that are submitted privately. The highest bidder wins, but pays the price of the second highest bid. According to scientific research done by William Vickrey, who won the Nobel Prize for this fundamental contribution to the economic theory of incentives under asymmetric information, this encourages bidders to bid the true valuation of the item. Right? Very interesting auction mechanism I discovered when I was preparing my slides. Obviously, there exist all kinds of ways to do fraud as well. One is not real fraud, is puffing. Puffing is like exaggerated or subjective praise used to promote an item. Think about the Club Brugge shirt. If I would say, this is a unique soccer shirt, there's only 5 of these, I'm bragging about the product. Overly bragging about the product is puffing. This is still legal. Then we have sniping bots. It's like a sniper. It's an automated piece of software, like a sniping agent, to place the winning bid, at the last possible second, right before the auction closes. So you don't want to bid too early, because if you bid too early, the only thing that you're doing is you're increasing the price. So with a sniping bot, you put one bid at the last possible second to make sure that you don't unnecessarily increase the price. Some platforms allow to extend the auction time if a bid comes in before the deadline. That's what we call a soft close. They do that to prevent sniping. Otherwise, use a hard close. That means a fixed end time, which basically encourages sniping. It encourages putting a bid just before the auction ends. That's legal unless, obviously, the platform states that it's not allowed. Shilling is placing fake bids to artificially raise or reduce the price by someone associated. So if I'm selling my Club Brugge shirt, I can have an accomplice, Sarah, and she's going to put fake bids on eBay for my soccer shirt to just increase the price. So this is shilling. Can also be reversed in a reverse auction setup where you have an accomplice which is going to set lower prices so as to lower the price. So shilling is that you have an accomplice that helps you either boost the price in a forward auction or reduce the price in a reverse auction by putting fake bids. Can actually be done by the platform itself, and it's usually considered fraudulent. Bid shielding means that you try to shield your bid. So as to end up paying a lower price for the item. So Bart puts a lower bid for a soccer shirt, let's say 50 euros. So let's say that I want a Club Brugge soccer shirt. I put a low bid in there, 50 euro, and my accomplice, Sarah again, puts a huge bid, 5,000 euro. Her bid is only meant to scare other ones away, to discourage the others. Sarah shields Bart's low bid and discourages the others. So no one will bid above 5,000 euros because that's a crazy price for a soccer shirt. Well, not for a Club Brugge soccer shirt, but anyway, let's say another soccer shirt. That's a crazy price for a soccer shirt. Uh, so right before the end, what happens is that Sarah retracts her bid and Bart gets the soccer shirt for 50 euros. So Sarah has shielded the bid of Bart. So that's an example of bid shielding. It's a fraudulent activity. Then we have non-delivery fraud where the bid is accepted, the money is transferred, the payment is made, but the item is never shipped. Another business model is the sharing economy, where we have companies like Uber, Airbnb, BlaBlaCar. Uber is ride sharing, Airbnb is home sharing, BlaBlaCar, I've never heard of it until I prepared my slides, is carpooling. TaskRabbit is task outsourcing. The idea is to value access to resources instead of ownership. So individuals is going to share access to goods, cars, bedrooms that you want to rent in an Airbnb setting, resources, typically peer-to-peer, for assets like cars, homes that are underutilized. So that is all supported by an Uber digital platform, by mobile apps, by secure payment systems, and obviously you need to gain some reputation and trust. Can often also be complemented with search pricing, right? So that's like with Uber is often engaged into search pricing. That means that they adopt a dynamic pricing strategy where prices increase when demand is high, so when traffic is very intense, when there's a lot of traffic, and supply is limited when only a limited amount of cars are available. All of this has some challenges like regulatory issues, quality control, liability concerns, and is seriously impacting traditional industries and has also led to various types of legal cases. To conclude, we have marketplaces, which are digital platforms where buyers and sellers connect to exchange goods or services, typically managed by a marketplace provider that facilitates the transactions without owning products. So it's just a broker. It connects buyers to sellers. And the broker, the marketplace broker, earns via commissions, listing fees, subscription fees, advertising or transaction fees. And the idea is to provide trust. Trust in terms of the buyers, trust in terms of the sellers, to provide convenience and a variety of efficiency for both buyers and sellers. They can be vertical, industry specific, like ChemNet. Let's just do ChemNet. That's in a chemistry setting, right? Here you can see buyers that have offer to buy particular type of chemical products and offer to sell also particular type of chemical products. So here you can see that ChemNet is a marketplace that connects buyers and sellers of chemical products. Covincent is the same, but in the car industry, right? It was founded by Daimler Chrysler, Ford, and General Motors as a business-to-business supplier exchange to enable collaboration, visibility, and integration for the global automotive industry. Okay, so they can be vertical, industry specific, or horizontal, cross industry like Amazon and eBay. B2B marketplaces connect customers with sellers, standardize pricing and checkout, focus on convenience and speed like Amazon and eBay. Then we have B2B marketplaces that connect businesses to other businesses to facilitate bulk transactions. Group purchases often comes with negotiated pricing and contracts specified in what we call service level agreements that denote these pricing that they actually may also specify volume discounts and so on. All of this will be integrated into the ERP and procurement systems. The idea is also to provide to facilities to discover new suppliers and vet them. Vet them means to carefully investigate suppliers and to see whether suppliers are trustworthy, to see whether they're good suppliers, trustworthy suppliers. Not only suppliers, but sometimes also um, buyers, usually based on rating, certifications, and compliance. Supports also complex logistics and fulfillment. There's various examples, Alibaba, Amazon business, or here you can see Amazon business is a B2B marketplace. Helps millions of customers worldwide reshape their business buying with cost and time savings, greater productivity, and insightful, very important, purchasing analytics as it states. Here you can see summarized it once more in terms of target audience, B2C marketplace, individual customers, B2B marketplace, business and organizations. Pricing is fixed or standard for B2C marketplace. In a B2B marketplace, it's a longer stickiness. It's negotiated with volume discounts. B2C is small individual orders. B2B is large bulk or repeat orders. Features for B2C is simple checkout and fast delivery and reviews. And in a B2B, it's more custom contracts, ERP integration, and complex logistics. So this ends this first part of this e-business chapter.